This is officially my first devlog where I'll be taking you through my design process for a level of my game. What I'm making is an aquatic platformer slash puzzle game. If that sounds like something you're into, stick around, and if not, please stay anyway. Without further ado, let's begin. I almost always start with designing the tile map. That way I have a clear idea of what tone I'm trying to set. I've gone very dark with my color palette as this part of the game is extremely deep underwater and will be the setting for the final level. Back in GameMaker, I set up the room with some height and width dimensions and add any of the layers I think I'll need for the design process, but I can always adjust these later. And for this room, I will be going much bigger than previous levels. Now I have to come up with a gimmick so that this level feels unique. I already know I want something like the button puzzles I have used in a previous level, but this time with lasers. So I started drawing up some simple assets that I can use during the coding process. I can always make these look pretty later. I eventually settled for these blurry looking sprites, but I could not stand them, and you'll see later in the video they get replaced very quickly. I coded the laser by drawing a line that stops when it touches a wall, and then along that line creating the laser asset. This was convenient as it means the lasers will always be the perfect length without me doing any extra work. Since I know these lasers will be triggered by buttons, I give them an on-off state that is currently linked to this brightly colored square. At first I was kinda lost and didn't know how the buttons for my lasers should look, so I took to the internet for inspiration. A lot of sun and moon imagery caught my eye and gave me the idea to use two kinds of lasers, one kind that is represented by the sun and the other kind the moon. I ended up with this cute coin spin animation for the button that I think looks great. I gave that sprite to a button object that's linked to both sun and moon lasers, now with the updated sprites, and it didn't take much more coding to get them to work properly. To really bring out the most from my players, this final level will see the return of some of the old enemies used in new ways that I may have held back on in the earlier levels, like this crystal enemy that I was messing with, or the blue spider crab enemy that you can see while I'm tile mapping part of this level. Tile mapping has been incredibly time-saving during the entirety of this project. I'm glad it's something I learned early on. Probably my second favorite part of game design has been coming up with puzzles for my players to solve, although it's a surprisingly time-consuming process. This level probably has about a few dozen hours left until it's fully complete. I have only completed a third of this level after all, and I plan to implement one more enemy to shake up the rest of this level. I have a feeling that some of my friends won't be happy to see him return though. That brings us to the end of my first devlog. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. I can't begin to describe how happy it makes me to share my game with people. If you have any questions or criticisms of the project, please feel free to leave a comment. Alright, that's it. See ya!